The whispering forest loomed ominously before Sarah as she stood at the edge of the forest. The tall trees obscured the sky, their branches intertwined like skeletal fingers reaching for the heavens. Sarah pulled the straps of her backpack tighter, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. She'd heard the legends associated with this forest, stories of missing hikers and eerie whispers that seemed to come from the trees themselves. Taking a deep breath, Sarah sank into the dense undergrowth, her footsteps muffled by the carpet of fallen leaves. Golden rays of sunlight filtered through the canopy, casting patterns on the forest floor. But despite the serene beauty of her surroundings, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. As she moved deeper into the forest, the air became oppressively silent, broken only by the occasional creak of twigs and rustling of leaves. Strange shadows danced in the periphery of her vision, playing with her mind. Hours passed, and the sun dipped lower to the horizon, casting long shadows that stretched across the forest floor like accusing fingers. Sarah's nerves were on edge, every snap of a branch or rustle of a bush making her heart race. But she was determined to discover the truth behind the legends of the Whispering Forest. Just as dusk began to fall, Sarah came upon a clearing in the heart of the forest. In its center stood an ancient oak tree, its branches reaching for the sky like the curled hands of a tortured soul. The air seemed to hum with otherworldly energy, and Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Sarah's pulse quickened as she surveyed her surroundings. An ancient oak tree seemed to loom over her, its gnarled branches casting long, eerie shadows that danced across the forest floor. There was a deafening silence, broken only by the faint rustling of leaves in the breeze. With a trembling hand, Sarah reached for her camera, trying to capture the scene. But when she brought the lens to her eyes, she hesitated. There was something unsettling about this clearing, something that seemed to defy explanation. As the minutes dragged on, Sarah became increasingly aware of the oppressive silence that surrounded her. It was as if the heart of the forest had frozen in time, enclosing her in its embrace. She breathed with difficulty, trying to shake off the sense of foreboding that gripped her. Just when Sarah thought she couldn't stand the silence any longer, she heard a faint whisper, like the rustling of leaves in the wind. She froze, her heart hammering in her chest as she strained to make out the words. But the whisper disappeared as quickly as it had appeared, and Sarah felt even more anxious than before. Startled, she turned to leave the clearing, her footsteps thundering in the eerie silence. Sarah did not yet know that the Whispering Woods held secrets far darker than she had ever imagined. As Sarah went deeper into the forest, the thick foliage seemed to close in around her, plunging the forest into an eerie twilight. With each step, the feeling of being watched intensified, and a chill ran down Sarah's spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was lurking behind the trees, hiding in the darkness. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, gaunt man with sunken eyes that seemed to pierce Sarah's soul. Sarah's heart raced in her chest and she fell backward, gasping in fear. She tried to scream, but her voice stuck in her throat, choked by the overpowering sense of terror that engulfed her. The man's lips curled into a sinister smile, and he stepped closer, his movements slow and purposeful. Panic set in Sarah's mind. She frantically searched for a way out, but in the back of her mind, she knew there was nowhere to run. Just when she thought she couldn't take the fear any longer, the man spoke, in a low, husky voice.
"Welcome to the Whispering Forest,"
he said, and his words echoed in the silence.
You have stumbled upon something far more sinister than you could have imagined.
With a sinking feeling in her stomach, Sarah realized she was in the clutches of something more sinister than she had dared to assume. And as the man drew closer, she realized that getting out of the Whispering Woods would not be easy. Sarah's heart pounded frantically as she backed away from the sinister figure. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her legs felt like lead and were chained to the spot by an invisible force. The man's voice echoed through the trees, filling the air with a chilling sense of foreboding. His words seemed to echo in Sarah's mind, haunting her thoughts with their dark promises. Stumbling, Sarah caught her foot on a mossy root and collapsed to the forest floor with a sigh. The impact knocked the breath from her lungs, and she became numb and disoriented. A man's laughter came from the shadows, a hollow, mocking sound. She jumped to her feet, her heart pounding in her chest, and she searched desperately for an escape route. But no matter where she turned, the dense trees seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction, their branches like gnarly fingers seeking to grab her. Panic clawed at Sarah's throat as she realized she was lost in the heart of the forest. With a sinking heart, she realized she was at the mercy of forces far beyond her comprehension. Stumbling, Sarah ran forward, trying to make sense of her surroundings. The oppressive darkness of the whispering forest seemed to press in on her from all sides, suffocating her with its heavy silence. Every rustle of leaves, every creak of branches sent a rush of fear through her. She knew she had to find a way out of this nightmarish maze before it was too late. But no matter how hard she tried, each path led her deeper into the heart of the forest, farther from safety and closer to the unknown horrors lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, the silence was pierced again by a voice, a low, guttural sound that seemed to come from the very depths of the earth. Sarah froze, her heart pounding in her chest as she strained to listen.
Sarah, you can't escape me. You belong to this forest now,
the voice whispered. Terror gripped Sarah's heart as she realized the meaning of those words. She was trapped, alone and defenseless, in a realm of darkness and despair. With a trembling hand, she reached for the nearest tree to lean on and recoiled in horror when her fingers hit something wet and sticky. When she looked down, she saw dark stains on the bark, an eerie reminder of the fate that awaited those who dared enter the heart of the forest. Despair threatened to overwhelm her as she sank to her knees, and fear crushed her spirit. But in the depths of her soul, a flame of determination burned brightly. With newfound determination, Sarah rose to her feet, her eyes blazing with defiance. She was lost in the Whispering Woods, but she was unwilling to surrender to the darkness that threatened to engulf her. With each step, Sarah vowed to fight the shadows, to wrest her freedom from the evil embrace of the forest. And whatever horrors awaited her in the depths of the Whispering Forest, she would face them head-on, armed only with her courage and her will to survive. As Sarah delved deeper into the heart of the forest, the air grew thicker with an otherworldly chill, and the trees seemed to close in around her like ominous sentinels. With each passing moment, the whisper grew louder, its eerie cadence filling her mind with fear and dread. She could feel eyes watching her from the shadows, invisible entities lurking beyond her vision. Suddenly, another figure materialized before her, a grotesque creature with sunken eyes and distorted facial features, from which emanated a palpable aura of malice. Sarah recoiled in horror, her heart pounding in her chest as she tried to comprehend the nightmare unfolding before her. But even as fear threatened to paralyze her, a voice from deep within urged her to stand her ground, to resist the darkness that threatened to consume her. With trembling hands, she reached for the makeshift weapon she had fashioned from a fallen branch and closed her fingers on its rough surface with desperate determination. The creature was advancing, its movements slow and deliberate, as if it were savoring the terror that radiated from the trembling girl. But she was unwilling to back down. Her gaze was fixed on the creature's empty eyes, and she prepared to defend herself against whatever horrors awaited her. With a guttural growl, the creature lunged forward, its claws slicing through the air with deadly precision. Sarah's heart raced, ducking and dodging, fighting for her life against the relentless onslaught. But just when all hope seemed lost, a blinding light pierced the darkness, illuminating the forest with a brilliant glow. Sarah shielded her eyes from the blinding light, her breath caught as a figure emerged from the shadows, drenched in radiant light, emanating an aura of undeniable power. The figure banished the creature back into the darkness from whence it had come, and its form dissolved into nothingness as if it had never existed. Sarah gazed in awe at the figure before her and realized that she had encountered something far greater than she had ever imagined. As the figure drew closer, Sarah saw that she possessed an otherworldly beauty, her form radiating an unearthly radiance that seemed impossible to comprehend. When she spoke, her voice was soft yet commanding, filling Sarah's heart with a sense of peace and tranquility.
"You faced the darkness and came out victorious, brave soul,"
the figure said, and its words resonated deep within Sarah's soul.
"But the whispering forest holds many secrets, and danger still lurks in its shadowy depths."
Sarah nodded, and the figure's words strengthened her resolve. She knew she could not linger in this cursed place any longer than necessary. With a grateful smile, she thanked it for its help and turned to leave, quickening her steps to make her way back through the winding paths of the forest. She knew that this encounter had changed her forever, that her perception of the world had been irrevocably altered by the horror she had witnessed. But as she escaped the embrace of the forest and stepped out into the cool light of day, Sarah felt a sense of freedom overtake her, a newfound appreciation for the beauty and fragility of life, and a determination to live each moment to the fullest.